Are you serious? Are you serious, folks? Welcome back to Megaquake 2020. We're so glad you are here for another great presentation. And there couldn't be anybody more prepared and more scientifically calculated and worked on this subject than probably the amateur astronomer Gill Broussard. He's from Louisiana, and he has been studying this for many, many years, folks, for many, many years. And I think what you're getting ready to experience today is just a taste of what his full presentation. We're actually going to give you down the road here, maybe in about a month or so, another full 3-hour presentation from Gill. But today, we just want to set the pace for you. PlanetX, or as Gill calls it, Planet 7X, has been here before, and the effects on the planet are traumatic, but they're also biblically based. And so let's enjoy some of this great presentation today from our good friend Gill Broussard. Gill, it's great to have you here today with me.
Howdy, Paul. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Gill, how long have you been studying PlanetX, really?
It was a shocker when someone else asked me. I had to actually go back and check the dates on some of the drawings that I made. That way I could figure out the time frame. But it's been about 14 years now.
All right.
It was close to 7, but it's close to time flies.
It really does. It really, really does. So Gill, I remember our conversations in the past, but as we're looking at things now, we have obviously seen changes in the weather patterns. Volcanoes, earthquakes, straight line winds, large hail. It seems to be accelerating. And is this part of what's going to take place, and do you see it more drastically being affected by the incoming Planet X?
Oh, without a doubt, Paul. We're looking at significant exponential rise as it gets extremely close to the sun and Earth. Anytime it's within either a direct line between the sun, Earth, and the planet, whenever you have a lineup, that's when the earthquakes and volcanic activity peak out. And whenever it's on the backside, when Earth is on the backside of the sun and it lines up with it, you have a calming period of quakes that happen. And any phases that are 90 degrees to that, we have a peak also that happens, which means the physicist model that this is an electric universe is absolutely correct.
And so when you say that, so in other words, because it's not really about gravity, is it? It's more about electric or magnetic connection.
Exactly. According to the new physicist model, that gravity is the weaker force, electromagnetic is the greater force. Just that they were mislabeling the force that was moving our planets as gravity when it's actually electromagnetic. So the formulas are still working, but it's actually magnetism. And we can prove that just by looking at where satellites are. It's called if to have a stable orbit, you calculate it to what's called a Roche limit, and therefore it can't fall back to Earth because gravity cannot pull it back. Well, if Earth's gravity has a limit on pulling back satellites, that means it can't reach beyond that to affect any planets or comets or anything. So it clearly shows that there's a limit for the gravity deal, and that the rest of this is electromagnetic attraction and repulsion throughout the universe.
So that's a misconception then in physics, that somehow the Earth pulls things into it. You're saying no, it don't. It can only do that to gravity or magnetic pull is only so far. After you get so far out into space, it's all about magnetic attraction.
Yes, once a comet or asteroid gets within inside the limit of what's called the Roche limit, and it gets captured by the field of Earth, then it starts its way in. It may take a couple, times around, or it may just come in straight depending on its angle of approach. It's the same thing with this last comet. It passed too close to the sun because the sun magnetic field is so large and strong that it broke up the comet. It was greater than the magnetic pull that was piecing the pieces together. So as soon as it got by a stronger field, it pulled them apart because they were loosely held together.
So the glue or the magnetic field that was holding them together was not as strong as the pull, that the magnetic pull from the sun, which then ripped it apart. And that's why a lot of comets never make it around the perihelion.
Correct. Yes, that's our, because there's always been a large debate between the physicists and the astronomers. Of course, they broke the courtesy on, they don't like one science field messing with some other science field, like the physicists versus the astronomers. But they have to, because they're not listening. And nature provided a experiment, which is that video I sent you that talks about comet sighting springs passing near Mars. An amateur astronomer named Fritz from Spain or Portugal, I think it was. He actually filmed it where NASA was filming it too, but they had like a 10-second delay. And when it came to the actual event of it having a plasma strike on Mars, they pulled away and showed you a very distant view where you couldn't tell what was going on. But this amateur astronomer captured it.
Which video is that? Is that video number 1 or number 2?
Let's see.
Is it Mars Comet, number 2, Mars Comet?
That's it. That's the one.
Let's play that one, Brock. And Gill, here we go. Let's play this for everybody.
Astronomy and physicists. Mm-hmm. The physicists made a prediction just recently that when comet sighting springs passed near Mars, that if their theory that the comet tail was plasma, there'd be electrical discharge between the comet and Mars. Mm-hmm. And that's what we observed. Observation like that is science-based.
I looked into comet sighting springs passing by Mars that would confirm this theory. NASA was providing a live feed during its arrival back in October 2014 of this encounter between the two bodies. When it got a little too close, NASA cut the feed to this much further out angle. As you can see, this image is not all that great. Fortunately, I was able to find another angle from a different available video, given by another researcher and amateur astronomer, Dr. Fritz Hemmerich, a professor of medical sociology. He was located near on Mount Tide National Park, Tenerife, Spain. He was able to record this interaction between sighting springs and Mars. What you're seeing is Mars light up like the sun after comet sighting springs' tail passes by, almost like that of an electromagnetic pulse. There was no major news media that covered this interaction. The only and closest article that I could find was given out by CNN titled, "Comet Sighting Spring Buzzes Mars, but NASA orbiters and rovers are safe." Nothing else was talked about.
Because our present models, using the physicist's model of electric universe and the plasma tail, proves out scientifically the events in many of the stories of the Bible. Only a plasma model works. The gravity model does not work. So if we would have tried to do these equations 15 years ago, we would have failed.
All right, okay, so that was a powerful video there by Gill, Broussard. And Gill, so you're saying that this comet sighting spring or sliding spring was actually throwing off major lightning bolts as it was making its way in.
That comet is only probably about a half a mile wide, okay? So it's very hard to see the plasma arc that it generated between the planet and the comet. But that's what lit up that entire planet, like a light bulb. Remember, Mars is almost the same size as Earth. It's about 95%, it's about 5% smaller or so, somewhere around that area. And Dr. Fritz Hemmerich out of, I think it's Portugal, he was lucky enough, or not lucky enough because he had planned it. But thanks to him, we have this video where NASA didn't want us to see it. And this proves out the physicists were correct, because the physicists predicted this event. The astronomers claim that the tail of a comet is ice particles. Well, a tail that's made out of ice particles won't light up an entire planet like that. That is electrical discharge like a capacitor. And that significantly impacted Mars. And we've had similar events here on Earth in the past.
When you look at the Bible, and I know we're going to get into Revelation 12 in a minute, but when you talk about events that's happened in the past, for instance, we could talk about during the time of the flood. Was the flood caused by the passing of PlanetX or Nibiru, planet number 9, whatever name they want to give it? I mean,
Yes, it was.
Can you explain a little bit how that worked?
Well, there's data that says that the 7 floodgates of heaven open up, which is basically 7 meteors that ruptured the canopy of water around Earth. And that's not a normal rain. Remember, it didn't rain before. It said the floodgates of heaven opened. There were 7 floodgates that opened up. And it took 40 days before all of the water emptied out onto Earth. And then it says water from underground came up as well. You know, the
fountains of water. The fountains of water, yeah.
Because the continental crust was on a honeycomb layer, and that was proven out by the Russians that dug the deepest well, that crushed granite mixed with salt water at a certain layer. Remember, all of the layers are solid. How is it you get to crushed granite mixed with salt water? Well, this is where the continents float. You know, they are shifting off of that rubble, that granite layer, and that's where some of that water was that came forth like springs coming up. And so once the Earth is flooded, 150 days later, from the first event, that's not counting the 40 days for it to fill up the Earth, is the second event where it says a great wind passed over the surface of the Earth. But that's the pressure wave from an impact, which that impact is what caused the Gulf of Mexico. And that on the opposite side of Earth, it released 71% of our continental crust that came off and into large chunks, and that's what ended up making the moon. Because you can get photos from NASA that shows how the moon is in big sections.
So you're saying, Gill, so you're saying it rained for 40 days and nights. Keep that picture right there, Brock. It rained for 40 days and nights. Then it took another 150 days from the beginning. From the beginning. Right. And then there's this meteor impact that hits in the Gulf of Mexico. Very similar to the book of Revelation where it says a fiery mountain hit. Yeah. But this one was also a fiery mountain. Okay. It's a large asteroid that hit roughly about 110 miles across, that hit the center of the Gulf of Mexico, and that made a 1,100-mile wide crater. And there's evidence that shows, if you know what to look for, that the Gulf of Mexico is a crater. And that's why, if the Earth is flooded, Paul, where does the water go? You have to make a hole, basically. Yeah, you got to make a hole. I don't know how do you get rid of the water? I've always wondered about that. 71% of the crust came off of Earth. That's the volume of the moon, exact volume, and the water receded into that void. Now, keep in mind that you had Pangea at the time. The continents were touching. And that's impossible if you had a molten Earth and it was spinning, because centrifugal force would have forced the molten continental crust to be evenly distributed around the Earth. Otherwise, you'd have a massive wobble. You'd have not tides, but tidal waves, as tides twice a day. You see? So after that came off the 71%, that's when Pangea was able to split, because it was landlocked before. Yeah.
And this plays out, the math works. We just have to have the correct model, and we can prove that now.
Now, so as PlanetX was going by, Planet 7X or Planet X, Nibiru, Planet number 9, whatever term everyone wants to use, but as this thing was going by on the outskirts of our solar system, was it visible by the naked eye during the days of Noah? Would it have been visible?
I think so, because it says that probably they could see the stars and everything. So yeah, I would say so.
No.
I wasn't there actually, so but I would say so.
Okay, so this caused the Great Flood. This caused the land locking to break apart, to really rebalance the Earth, and that put us on a different timeline, didn't it? Of Planet X is going to make another return. Does Planet X or Planet 7X, when it returns, Gill, does it return at the exact same distance as before, or is it oblong? Is there different distances from our solar system, and thus we have different reactions?
It always comes from the same direction as far as the universe is situated. It's pointing south to the universe. South to the universe is not polar, like polar south, when you're talking about the universe. Universe south is right where Sagittarius is, on the ecliptic. The ecliptic would be where the sun passes in the sky. If you draw a line, center of the sun right through the center of the Earth, and then project it out into space, that's called the ecliptic. That's Earth planetary plane. This object, for us to have a double meteor shower, because the third point of reference is the center of the sun for all objects to circle. So you have 3 fixed points. You have 2 meteor showers on Earth, planetary path, and 1 fixed point where it revolves around, which is the sun. 3 fixed points. So it has to be on the ecliptic for us to have two meteor showers. So we look on the ecliptic, it would be to the left when you're viewing the skies, left of Sagittarius, or where south of the universe is. And that's where it's traveling. It'll go into Capricorn, and then it'll do a retrograde motion, go into Sagittarius, then it'll come back into Capricorn. From there, it will make its way around the sun, and then it's rendezvousing with us around March, possibly. That's our estimate.
So your estimate that this March coming up, is it 2021, or do you think it's 2022? What's kind of your timeline on when this thing's going to swing back around?
We have remember this planet has an unstable orbit. It depends on what it bumps into. This is what destroyed the planet Ceres. This is what bumped into Mars and moved it another 1.5 degree out of tilt, out of planetary plane. It bumped into Pluto. It had different effects with different things. So if it's not bumping into anything, then it's roughly around 360 degrees, 360 years orbit, approximately. So unless we have a sighting, we cannot confirm the arrival date. And right now, there's no confirmed sighting in the public realm. What you see on the internet is mostly sundogs and lens flares, and maybe a couple of Photoshop fakes, but the vast majority, there's nothing in the astronomy realm confirmed by an astronomer of a sighting. And remember, there's 2 to 3 million amateur astronomers that would be more than glad to take close-up pictures or, very clear pictures, but there isn't any, and because it's not in our sighting yet. And the Bible alludes that we'll have a short notice. And the only thing that we have as far as astronomy going on is what the Bible talks about. It's talking about the moon has to be at the foot of Virgo. Well, when you're looking at the moon, what are you looking in the sky? And then it says that the word, actual Greek word was helios. It could mean sun, but it can also mean a bright, actual meaning of that word means bright illuminated object. It could be the sun, but it also could be a comet. Now, whenever you place the tail of this comet in its proper orbit, in March, at the end of this coming, it would illuminate Virgo after a 12-hour delay in Earth rotation, which is also talked about. One of the prophets says, in the end days, he will make day into night and night into day. Well, that's not an eclipse. Eclipse can only give you darkness during the day. It doesn't give you light at night.
Right.
That is in reference to a 12-hour delay in Earth's rotation. It's happened before. Remember Joshua's long day?
Yes, Joshua's longest day, the sun stayed up for a full 24 hours. What it means is the Earth had to stop rotating. Is that right?
Correct, because Earth is entering into the tail of the comet. Remember, it's not ice particles, it's plasma we're entering. And the plasma causes us to slow down. Just like you take a dimmer switch on a light and you're lowering it, we have about a 3-day process of it entering, and then at one point we come to a complete stop. We have a 12-hour delay in rotation, and you can read the story of Joshua. Shortly after, there's a meteor shower, fiery hail from heaven.
Yeah.
But what's very interesting is that it only kills the enemy.
Yeah, it didn't kill the children of Israel, just killed the enemy. But it was fireballs. It was fire and hail that fell from heaven on the enemy, and the sun stayed up for 12 hours. So that was definitely an event. The earth stopped spinning for 12 hours, and hail and fire fell from the sky. I mean, there was no doubt about it. This was a major space event.
Yes. Keep in mind there's 3 tails to a comet, okay? And they have different positions during different times of its orbit around the sun. There's a illuminated tail, which is the plasma. Then there's a debris field that trails it, which is where all of the asteroids are that's being pulled by its magnetic field and gravity through, you have millions and millions of miles of debris behind it, because it's passing through 2 major debris fields, the Kuiper belt and the asteroid belt. And it picks up this stuff, trailing it like a vacuum cleaner, basically, okay? Then in between those 2 tails, there's what's called a dust tail. It's very fine microparticles that plasma rose the surface of this comet. And this comet is across, it's a comet, but it's the size of a planet.
It's huge.
So it's huge. It's huge. Just remember the one that just struck Mars, you had just saw the video.
Yeah.
That was only a half a mile across.
Yeah.
And it did that. Think of something that's 1.5 to 2 times the size of Earth now, because I had to scale down my estimate, because noticing the magnetic field on how strong it is and for how long it's been affecting us tells me that this thing is like a giant magnet. It's mostly made out of metallic iron, like almost very strong in iron content, which has a magnetic field, and because its effectiveness greater than Jupiter is.
Yeah, it has a stronger magnetic pull. There's a stronger magnetic pull from this thing than what we're getting from Jupiter. Even though we've never seen it, even though right now we're trying to get a glimpse of it, other than if we was, and Heidi's going to talk about that in her presentation, what's written down by, in the Mayan tablets and the Anunnaki. But is it come with a red dust? Is that what you're hearing, that a red dust?
Yes, when you have iron-based material and you have plasma that's eroding it, it will cause a reddish dust.
Yeah, I have a piece of, right now I'm holding up for everyone, I have a meteorite that hit the Earth, and we don't know how long ago. It's kind of orangish, kind of orange reddish color. It's the size of the palm of my hand. It is almost all metal. It's metallic. It's a piece of a meteor that hit the Earth, and I don't know how long ago, and somebody sent it to me. A guy sent it to me out of Illinois. I'm very thankful. I'd love to have it tested. and it has that orangish reddish tint to it. So that's similar, and maybe it's, who knows, this could be a piece of it. This was found in Illinois. I mean, wouldn't you say that whatever hit the Gulf of Mexico, the explosiveness of that was so unbelievable during that time of the flood? But now we're talking about Joshua's longest day. We're talking about PlanetX making its return. But the mathematics are showing that there's a gravitational pull on our whole solar system. We can't see it, but the math is adding up. Is that correct, Gill?
Yes, we've been almost 1.5 centuries. We've been noticing something affecting our outer planets. Matter of fact, it's been about 2 centuries that we've noticed and calculated the movements of the planets, that they were warped by unknown gravity, or at the time is the term, but we know now it's electromagnetic in nature. And so keep in mind, like once it reaches the edge of our solar system, it takes 16 years to reach the sun. And
wow.
In other words, it had to start entering our solar system for it to be here in 2021. I guess that's around 2005. I'm kind of doing a quick math here. Let's see. And yeah, that's about 2005. So if you go back and look at what NASA sent out for Pioneer and Voyager probe looking for PlanetX, it's in the data, it's in the news article, and then they went quiet December 1992.
Yep.
Because if you follow where the probes went and look where it was, they ended up having instrument contact. It was about, about 10 years outside of our solar system at the time, somewhere around there. And that's when they went quiet. It's too much of a threat to talk about this, and the project went dark. Matter of fact, they changed the crew shortly after it left the solar system. After it went by Pluto or whatever, they changed the crew because they had an alternative motive to this mission later on. So, and it was confirmed.
So yeah, and what I understand, in 1985, there was talk that they had made contact with PlanetX, with the deep space probes. They put together a Nibiru team of NASA scientists. I think that something like that, whatever they called it, I don't know, but 1992 they shut that down. I mean, they just went silent about talk about this, didn't they?
1985 would be the wrong number.
Okay.
Okay, they actually made instrument contact with it, with their magnetic sensors on it. I had talked to one of the university students that helped work on the magnetic sensors that went on the Pioneer probe. And that's what it had, super sophisticated, very sensitive magnetic sensor. That's what guided it. That's what they were pointing to, where this magnetic field was. And when you have 3 of them at 3 different, you can triangulate.
Yes.
And then you can also triangulate the speed and where it's moving. But you had to guess on where to kind of send it. Is it moving to the right? Is it moving to the left? To where you could rendezvous with it. And we only had one that went almost right up to it. And one was ahead, one was behind it, where they thought it may have had an opposite orbital rotation. So they sent one where they thought Dr. Harrington had thought about. Then the other one they sent the other way, and one was above it, and one was below it. And they were able to triangulate it. And that's when they went silent, 1992. So that's when they made instrument contact. The Vatican came online in April 1993. And I had talked to one of the retired NASA engineers. He called me. And he helped design the instrument package, which is called Lucifer. It's the electronic package that is infrared. The telescope is not called Lucifer, it's the electronic package. And that was built by our US government for that observatory, obviously because they're sharing information. And so that's the only picture that I'm aware of that exists is from that sophisticated device they hooked up on the Vatican telescope in Arizona.
Now, the Vatican telescope, called, like you said, the mechanism Lucifer, they're watching this thing. I mean, they're keeping an eye on it. And I also understand that Mike Brown, former Caltech, and maybe he still works for Caltech or a consultant anyway to Caltech, a former NASA scientist. Mike Brown has been in Hawaii every night up on that observatory, searching diligently to get a glimpse of it. So this thing must be, okay, if 1992, they said, let's not talk about this no more. We know it's about 10 years away from our solar system. And let's say 2005, it finally got to the edge of the solar system. They're not wanting to talk about it. But Gill, they are searching now. I mean, this thing must be closing in. Am I right?
Oh, without a doubt. There's only a certain amount of time for, remember, once you start seeing physical effects on Earth, it's just that we don't know how powerful the magnetic field, but because it's a comet, it doesn't have much dirt or the normal composites like Earth would have. If it did, then it would be roughly about 5 to 7 times the diameter. But because because that would have eroded away in a short amount of time, because it's not very hard and not, but with the plasma hitting the surface and everything, it's metallic. And that's something we didn't expect. But that is the difference between an asteroid and a comet. A comet is actually a magnet, basically running through space, energizing the plasma, and that's why you see it as a bluish or white light, that it makes a tail, where an asteroid is made out of materials that are not so much magnetized. And they don't have a tail because they're not energizing the plasma.
Okay, so now that we've identified the fact that NASA recognized through its probing and through its triangulation that around 1992 that, hey, this thing is starting to, it's getting into play here. Let's quit talking about it in the media. Let's no longer discuss it. Matter of fact, let's say it doesn't exist. But at the same time, Lucifer comes online in 1993, US, NASA, and I'm sure the European Space Agency and some of the others and all these deep space probes. And now all of a sudden, Gill, we have these we got to figure out ways to nudge asteroids. We got to figure out how to, go out there and nudge them or do things incoming. We've even heard Putin say we need to shoot them out of the sky. I mean, turn our nukes to the sky. I mean, and we got underground cities being built by major governments. Gill, this, and according to the Bible, if you go into Revelation 12, this thing is starting to happen. I mean, it's coming into play, isn't it?
Without a doubt. That's basically what the book of Revelation is talking about. When you see the signs, remember?
Yeah.
Some of them are like, if you see earthquakes rising like the pain of a woman giving birth. That is clear. We're in the times that it talks about. Now, how long is the times we have to wait? It's called Jacob's trouble.
Yes.
How long is Jacob's trouble? You go read the story of Jacob. Before he left his father-in-law, when he left, it was 20 years. He turned around and told his father, I worked for you for 20 years before he crossed the Jordan.
Yes.
So Jacob's trouble is 20 years. Well, guess what? 2001, we have it in the Jerusalem Post where they declared Jacob's trouble started. All of the rabbis of Jerusalem. And they normally don't agree with anything, together. But they agreed on that point because there's a book called the Book of Genealogy that's hidden from us, And I was able to find part of that in a Torah, which called it the Leningrad Torah. The lineage in that particular Torah works out correctly with all of the astronomy and the artifacts and everything. And they came out and said 2001 is definitely the beginning of Jacob's trouble, and they're right. They're absolutely correct.
So if 2001 is the beginning of Jacob's trouble, then 2021 is the end of Jacob's trouble.
There's look, I don't have a crystal ball to say for sure. I'm just saying it gives me great concern. Because we also have the moon lining up at the foot of Virgo. There's only 2 times that I could find. 2016, 2021. If there's another one, I haven't found it yet. If there's another, because remember, the Hebrew calendar actually is a floating calendar. It's associated with the moon. Very hard to look at all the possibilities, but I could not find another one. And before Jacob's trouble is ended, because this ushers in CO6 and CO7. That's the meteor shower. You can all read it. It says fiery hail falls on the earth. That means we have to see CO3 and 4 and the beginning of a peace agreement, which is CO5. It is alluding to a peace agreement. That's why the souls underneath the altar are complaining. You're not going to misrevenge us? What's the deal? Because of this peace agreement. He says, go back to sleep. It's not your time. Because you know they're going to break the peace agreement midway. So CO3 and 4 is what we're waiting for. And guess what? I think CO3 has already started. This is the virus and the economy globally has shut down. Nowhere in history has the economy ever been shut down globally. Well, 4 is a war where a quarter of the world population dies.
So let's look at this, folks. Let's go there to Revelation chapter 6. It does say, what Gill's alluding to here, is the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The first seal, of course, is that the beast kingdom or the Antichrist, riding that white horse, trying to move in position, at least the world global elitists trying to create a one world government. And they got to lay that foundation, this globalist movement, this global citizenship, this Green New Deal, a lot of the things you've been witnessing has all part of that conquering and to conquer. And then the second horse is the horse of war. It brings out the red horse. It takes peace from the earth. Not necessarily meaning war, but the threat of war, the great sword. They kill each other. There's chaos, and we've been witnessing that. Now you're going into the black horse, Gill, which you're talking about here, where it affects the pair of balances. The black horse has these pair of balances in his hand, and the beast says, a measure of wheat for a penny and 3 measures of barley for a penny. See, thou hurt not the oil and the wine. And so we're now in this coronavirus, which is the 4th horse, with disease and death and devastation and hunger and famine. We're kind of working into this 3rd and 4th seal, aren't we? I mean, we're watching it develop, I think, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. If we go back to the first horseman and look at it a little bit with a different perspective.
Okay.
Because often when if it's something that's already passed, we have an idea that it might be this, but we can go back and actually look at what took place in 2001. Well, Bin Laden was voted in by the mullahs. He was chosen to be a general to make the holy jihad against the world. Okay, and what was Jacob's trouble, basically? He was running away from Esau.
Yeah, Esau.
Okay, because Esau wanted to kill him.
Yes.
So the globalists and Islam are plotting against the seed of Jacob.
Yes.
And they needed a general to start the war. That was Bin Laden. Because it doesn't literally say Antichrist. It's our assumption that it was Antichrist. That's not right. It's a general, one who is chosen to do war. Okay? Because the Antichrist doesn't appear until the peace agreement.
Right.
It says that in the scripture.
Yeah, he don't appear till he walks into the temple of God before the worshipers of God and declares he's God. I mean, yeah, we could see that in 2 Thessalonians 3 or 2 Thessalonians 2. Okay.
So the second horseman was global terrorism. Is what they started.
Takes peace.
And cutting off the heads of Christians.
Horrible. It's horrible.
And Jews.
Yes.
Both Jews and Christians are being persecuted here.
Yes.
So now we're coming up to 3. And I think 3 has started. And we're about to see probably in another month here, possibly number 4 started. I'm hoping that it's longer than that, but this is where the only thing that might delay this is this virus, because Russia has to, for Russia to take back all the old Soviet states, which is they have to because for them to survive, because they don't have enough young people, and half of those have tuberculosis. They don't have the engineers needed to keep all of their systems, their power lines, their railroads, the military, all of this going. They're looking at an economic collapse starting probably either after this year, because half of their military is retiring, and the majority of their engineers by 2023, I believe it is. So they have to right now try to conquer the old Soviet countries back into play. They have to capture them back.
Which ones are those? Are they going back after Lithuania and Estonia, Poland,
Ukraine, and all of those areas? There's about 11. I think there's a total of 11 smaller and large countries.
That would be a huge war. I mean, if they try to go get Poland and these guys, it's going to get ugly, Gill, ugly.
Well, they already started with
Ukraine. Right.
Crimea, and they've destabilized the military of Ukraine by letting them walk into a trap, and they eliminated their generals. The U.S. has troops there to stop them. Okay, but you're going to see a war. There's many things that rule. It's not just you have some people on a chessboard plotting war. That's not exactly it right now. It's a matter of survivability. There's going to be a major food shortage. There's a population curve that's declining for the young. That already has happened, but it's going to start showing effects once they get into the 20s and 30s. They don't have the tax base. So you're looking at a war in the Persian Gulf, a war in Eastern Europe, and probably a war in the China Sea area. Once the Persian Gulf War starts, you're looking at a major oil shortage to Asia, and that's 50% of the world population. You can draw a circle right there. There's more people living in that circle than out. And they're going to lack about 90% of their present oil coming in because of the Persian Gulf region going into war. And oil will probably jump up to about $100, $110, $120 a barrel until that war is over, which would take probably like 4 to 5 months. Then there'll be the interim of peace where they're talking, the people are observing a peace, but it's not official yet. They're talking over the terms. And that's roughly when the Antichrist will show up into Israel. That'll be around the end of Sukkot, possibly. And it'll take him about 4 months to negotiate a peace deal before it's signed. And that'll be closer to the 40-day warning, like the warning of Jonah.
So let's talk about that.
40-day warning to the earth.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So let's go to the story of Jonah and how that Jonah went in there and said, look, God's going to destroy the city in 40 days. And of course, that was what's known as the sign of Jonah. Was that during the time of PlanetX is the question I guess we have for you again.
Yes, it was. We have an artifact that shows that gives us the actual date of that 40 days prior to the arrival of PlanetX. And that was in Nineveh, which is called Mosul today. And what happened 40 days later was in Jerusalem, the shadow went backwards on steps for Hezekiah. So Jonah was 40 days earlier than the actual event of the crossing, which is what caused Earth to tilt 26 to 28 degrees, causing the shadow to go backwards on 10 steps. It wasn't a sundial.
Right.
That's a misinterpretation of the text.
Right. It's 10 steps. So is that the same event then? I mean, we're talking the same event?
That is a PlanetX event, yes. Remember like when Moses, when they went to the Red Sea, and he parted the water. The text says the wind
Yeah.
came in and used the Almighty used the wind to part the waters, and they walked upon dry land.
Strong east wind blew all
Right.
night. Yes.
Now, how come he just didn't tell them walk on top of the water? Okay, because it's his choice to determine his miracles and
Right.
what he wishes to use, not us.
Right.
It's
right,
him.
Right.
And this planet is part of the process because he has the whole universe to his power. Okay, so and it connects the stories of the Bible to the last book. This is integrated to be able to understand the last book of the Bible. You have to understand the 14 other events, well, 15 now, that are in the stories, which gives you the data points to understand the last book. And it also tells you the story. When you look at it as a whole, it's phenomenal. So I'm working on something there for the future to have what the overall story is.
All right, now let's look at this again because, all right, so I remember the Revelation 12 sign that was brought out. Scotty Clark used stellarium. He identified what he believed was on September 23rd, 2017, that the moon, here's the scripture. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, pain to be delivered. There appeared another wonder in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And then it goes on to tell us that the tail drew his third part of the stars, fell from heaven. So Scotty Clark worked very diligently to come across this in a stellarium that he had used. But you brought forth to me before we came on to do this interview that tell us a little bit more, that NASA has more than one stellarium algorithm. Is that right?
No, NASA doesn't. NASA only has one algorithm for the stars, the motion of the stars and planets. Stellarium has 10 to 12.
Okay, that's what I made a mistake. Stellarium has 10 or 12, but NASA has just one.
Right. So I use Starry Night. It does have a few issues because with some of the programming for developing a model for this comet. But if you check your model, you can find the errors in it. But that's why I use Starry Night, because it's the same model as NASA. And it is proving out to be correct.
So
whenever we go with the artifacts and when we look at the genealogy of the Bible, where the patriarchs were in time frame, we have an exact match.
So Scotty's stellarium he used wasn't quite correct. It's not his fault. It was just the stellarium he used. It's not the same one that NASA uses.
Using in modern time, time frame, but when you go back in the back history and BC area, it's off. It does not match Starry Night. Now, he was using present day skies. Yes, it is correct, but he applied it wrong. He applied it to the daytime skies. And the book of Revelation is talking about the nighttime skies. Okay?
Okay.
Because the Messiah comes mid of night, not mid of day. It literally says mid of night, not midnight, like you think, because that day when he arrives is going to be 12 hours longer. So it's mid of that day. Midnight, when you watch your watch, you're looking at the wrong time then, because that's a modern term.
Okay.
That the old term is mid of night.
Okay. Can we take a look at this video you have on the plasma tail?
Yes, that's very important. It relates to Revelation as well.
Okay, so let's do that now, Brock. Let's watch this video by Gill Broussard on the plasma tail. Can you? Okay, go ahead, Gill. Talk it out.
Okay, tell me when it swaps.
It just changed to this blue.
All right, I got it. Okay, this is where Earth is entering into the tail of the plasma. The tail of the plasma always points opposite of the sun. It does not point the direction that it's traveling. The traveling direction is that red line, and the Earth's traveling direction is that green line. So roughly 3 days before they come very close together, we're starting to enter the plasma. And now that's affecting Earth's rotation. If you have an effect of about 4.5% compounded hourly, you end up with Earth stopping at the end of the third day and have a delay of 12 hours. Just like Joshua. This is going to happen again in the book of Revelation.
So how long will the darkness be?
About 3 days, because you're in the plasma there. It's not total darkness.
I see.
Except when you get exactly, but it will be a form of darkness. You ever seen the northern lights, the aurora?
Yes.
Where the Earth, you're going to have that's going to be extremely active. And then right now it's getting out of the plasma. Now it's running into the debris that's following on that red line. On that red line,
yes.
The comet.
Yes.
And that's the first meteor shower.
I see.
The second one is 150 to 152 days later.
Okay,
so,
I see it.
Only half the Earth is hit right there.
Yes.
Because only half the Earth is facing the missing debris, and we live on a globe, not a flat Earth. That's why only half is hit. Okay? And the nighttime side is when the Messiah comes, which is the back side, and that's when the tail of this comet is illuminating Virgo. Remember, when the sun is out, all of the constellations are illuminated. You can't see this in the daytime because they're all illuminated.
Yes.
I mean, software is not going to be working at the time that you're in this plasma tail.
I see.
All generators globally have to be shut down. Your electronics have to be, otherwise they're going to fry.
So at this point, Earth has a 2 to 4 hour complete stop with a 12-hour delay of the rotation as it reaches the trailing debris field of planet 7X. This is when the meteor shower starts. So we're going to
our forward speed of Earth is going to be delayed by
12 hours. Okay, 2 to 4 hours.
That way we don't have, it is impossible for the two planets to collide right here.
I see.
It will, calculation-wise, they're going to freak out because they're using a straight calculation that they're going to collide, but they're not. Because the mechanism of it going into the plasma, because the physics model is much more correct, you have a delay in forward speed and rotation. Therefore, it ends up missing. It's impossible for it to collide in March. But you do have a close call. Earth tilts 26 to 28 degrees. You have a meteor shower. The rotation of Earth stops. That means the water around the bulge of the equator will separate and it'll move to the north and south pole. You have major flooding in the northern regions of the Earth, like northern Europe. Most of Canada would be underwater. Most of Russia would be underwater.
What about the United States?
If you're around Florida, your coastline will recede, but it will come back up even higher whenever the water goes back.
I see.
Remember, there's a sloshing of it. The Bible says not to live anywhere on the coastline during the time of the approach of this planet. Nowhere on Earth is a coastline safe.
So, okay,
not even by lakes.
Let's go back. Let's go back and look at this again. I almost think you got to play that video again because now we're starting to get the picture. What you're saying, Gill, you mentioned March. What year are you talking about? 2021 maybe? You don't have a crystal ball, but is that what you're thinking here?
It's giving me great concern, but the software confirms the moon is at the foot of Virgo. This is a rare event.
Okay, we're watching. Here we are. We're watching the video again. We see the blue. We see where Earth is. As it's just now, there's the moon, just hitting the blue flame of planet 7X. Tell us what we're seeing. Keep us going. Here it goes, the next frame. 7X, electromagnetic plasma sheet, the inner blue. 7X electromagnetic lobe region, the inner yellow. Take it from there.
Whenever it gets to the center lobe, that's where the massive effects happen to Earth. The outer lobe is a minor effect, and all of this comes together where Earth will lose 12 hours of its rotational delay, and about 2 to 3 hours.
What is the minor effect? What do you call a minor effect? Fire falling from heaven?
No, there's no meteor shower during this. This is you have something like a fire in heaven, that's what they call the northern lights.
Yeah.
Remember the aurora borealis. Then there's another term for the southern.
Okay. Now it says the effects will cause a compound rate of loss of 4.15% to 5% each hour. The first hour we're going to lose 2 minutes and 49 seconds. The second hour we're going to decrease by 4 minutes and 98. Etc. Okay, so we start. Is this time? Are we losing? Are we slowing down?
Yes, it's just like a dimmer switch. You know how you move it, and there's less and less light. Well, there's less and less speed of Earth's rotation.
Okay,
it's not like slamming on the brakes, like so many people. Earth can't stop. If you stop the Earth, then you'd have tidal waves. The oceans would empty out onto the continents.
Right.
Well, that's not the way the model worked. It was a gradual.
It's gradual.
That's
but still, that gradual effect is catastrophic. I mean, it could be cataclysmic. Am I correct?
That's why if you add up the Bible, remember, CO4, a quarter of the world population dies of this war and pandemic disease. And famine. You have all three of those going on. 1/4. That was from this March to this next March. You're looking at about a quarter world population dying. Then if you add all the other percentages, you're looking at 90% of the world population dying. We can talk about the Mayans. The Mayans, just the drought. When they were there, they lost 90% of their population on the Mayans.
All right, let's talk about the Mayans. Let's talk about it. And how long a period was that wiped out 90% of the Mayan population?
Well, this thing normally gives us about a 7-year period of problems with weather, crops, and food production. Well, remember when a volcano is going off, it creates ash. You can't grow your crops. If the earthquakes are ripping the ground apart, you can't make crops. If you have a plague of locusts that are eating the crops, you can't.
We got them.
It goes on and on and on. There's going to be a shortage of food. It's already started, but it's going to be much more severe as this thing gets closer here.
I mean, folks, if you think for a minute, we got the worst locust plague right now that we've had probably maybe since Egypt, okay, since the biblical plague. I mean, it's 20 times more than anything we've seen. It's devouring Kenya, Ethiopia, Sudan, Somalia, parts of China, parts of Iran, parts of Saudi Arabia. It's outrageous. We've not seen locusts like this before. Meanwhile, we got dust settling, okay, chargeable particles, red dust, iron oxide coming down upon the earth, which is going to affect the soil. The radiation levels, Gill, are up 18% the last 3 years on the planet. So you're right. It's already starting, isn't it?
No, without a doubt. The magnetic field of Earth is weakening. We have the wobble of Earth that's much more severe in the direction that it's coming from, which is south of the universe, because it's being pulled slightly because of the magnetic field. Our magnetic field itself is changing. It's moving at 12 times its normal rate, and it's right next to our geographic north. There's many events that global warming, your cars can't produce. This is something that's pertaining to planets, pertaining to our entire solar system. All of the planets are warming up. It's not just Earth.
And it's not because of car exhaust fumes or cow farts or, these things. We're dealing with we're dealing with atmospheric deep space, atmospheric compression. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but it's
anomalies. Yeah, there's all of the planets are warming up. Last time I checked, there's no cows or cars on Mars. It has to be some other object that's affecting our sun. It's affecting our planets. And the only thing is that planetary body coming in that's like a huge magnet. It has a very strong magnetic field that fits a comet profile. All of the data is pointing to more of a comet than a planet, but it's a planet-sized object. So this is like, we never seen a comet this large before, at least not in modern times. The ancients have, because they documented it multiple times. They just didn't have a word for planet, they always gave it a name or something. Yeah, remember, the word planets that's modern terminology. So you have to understand ancient cultures and their languages to understand what they're saying.
And in the book written by Immanuel Velikovsky, Worlds in Collision, he talks about the Mayan culture's writings about it. The Mayans, the Hopis, the Incas, the Aztec Indians, the North American Indians, the Asians, the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic, the Torah, the Bible. Okay, all of this ancient, the Anunnakis, all of the ancient tablets refer to it maybe with different names, like blue Chinka, Nibiru, all these different terminology. But to your point, they gave it different names, but we're still dealing with the same basic thing. Coming into our solar system, such a large... Now, can I ask you a question, Gill? This 3 days of darkness... Your thoughts are it's kind of the slowing down of putting the brakes on the Earth's spin, which then delays the light in one half of the world longer, but the darkness on another. Do you also see our sun being sucked dry of its helium temporarily? Do you see that moment?
No, I don't see that. No.
Okay. So
remember, when you're in the tail of the comet, that means it's blocking the sun from you. But you do have energized plasma hitting the Earth, which is somewhat of a light, but it's a different type of light. But the majority of it is darkness, because it has, the planet itself physically has blocked us from viewing the sun for those 3 days.
Yeah. So the planet is what's darkening us. The planet's blocking the sunlight. I mean, but how cold will the Earth get at that point, Gill?
I'm not sure. I really don't have the answer to that.
Well, it's got to get cold. I mean, you couldn't block the sun. I mean, look, I'm in Idaho. A
very long period of time, we'd be in trouble.
Well, yeah, look, I just tell you something.
3 days.
I'm in Idaho on the solar eclipse, what's called the Great American Eclipse. I'm out in the middle of Idaho with thousands of other people, and I'm watching a total eclipse of the sun that lasted about 2 minutes. And Gill, it was right around noon in Idaho. And when the moon moved in front of the sun, and we were in the total eclipse, we went from daylight to dark. It was like a light switch went off, and the temperature fell 20 degrees in a little over 2.5 minutes. I mean, imagining the darkness and the effect on the planet's temperature.
Well, I'm actually thinking that it's going to get hotter, because there's a lot of heat associated with the plasma interacting with our magnetic field. So remember the Bible says things will get extremely hotter.
Yeah.
So
and that matches.
It could go either way, because I've never lived through one of these, but I'm actually thinking that the plasma tail will counteract any coolness.
Yeah, and you know what? And that kind of that's what Mike from Around the World is also confirming, that it will not get colder, but unbelievably it will get hotter. And actually that matches the biblical narrative. If you go to 2 Peter chapter 3, when you start talking about the earth melting with a fervent heat, and the planets are going to melt, the heat. And so that's what we're experiencing, is an uptick in temperature due to the magnetic pull and the heating of the core of the earth.
Right. So that's, if it expands our lava in underneath us, that's what's causing the massive earthquakes and volcanoes. Okay. Because that expansion has to go somewhere. Just a small fraction of a percent it takes, and it's going to come out of. It has to come out of the ground because it has to make room. And
so let's get back to your timing for a minute here, Gill, because you're kind of looking at this past March to this upcoming March as a very critical period. This is 2021. It's 20 years after 9/11. All the stars are aligned. It looks like, we're watching the coronavirus, the earthquakes, the volcanoes, the dead birds, the dead fish, the dead cows falling over everywhere. I mean, a lot of stuff is lining up, isn't it?
Right. Remember when I first stated this, I speculated what the government would probably have to do prior to the arrival. One, they'd have to control the media. All right. Well, the media is very, very controlled. Okay. Two, they'll have to put troops in the streets. Okay. Well, we're definitely seeing them. The troops are in the streets, but they don't have weapons yet. Now, when CO4 happens, where we have terrorism, then you have troops with weapons in the streets. But people will perceive them as friends because they're there to protect you from the terrorist. But they're actually there because of this planet coming around. They have to have order. So you're going to have control of money. Well, they're going to have a digital form of money as well, and diseases on bills and everything. They're going to have to try to eliminate as much paper as possible. So you're going to have a form of a bail-in happening where they're controlling it. And they're going to have to ration food at one point, maybe not in the U.S., but in many other countries, it'll be severe. There'll be food rationing and probably fuel rationing. Or they'll make fuel so expensive possibly that you can't afford it. So one or the other, but you have to control the fuel. You can either make it too high or you ration it. Those are the main items. Well, we're already seeing a few of these happening. And if we see CO4 happening, then guess what? Then I would say 2021 is a definite, it would be a 99% possibility if we see CO3 and 4 happening. And so if this is true, then Paul, then we need to be in Jerusalem for Sukkot coming up, which is October 1st. Remember, before October 1st, because that's when the flu season starts. And that's when you have to go into 14-day quarantine if you go beyond that. So,
are you talking this year? You need the people, the folks need to be in Jerusalem before?
Yep. You have to stay there from Sukkot all the way to Passover because you're not going to be able to get there during Passover because the flu season is too bad. Remember what we went through this last year. They shut down. Nobody could get into Israel.
Okay, we're going to look right now at a graph you have, which is a model after 2018-19 flu season data. Let's look at your graph here, Gill.
All right.
And you're showing that there was a spike big time right in the middle of the winter, leading into Passover and unleavened bread. And so the flu season, which your point is, we're right now in the middle of a coronavirus pandemic, which is worse than the flu season. I mean, which could very well be bad again. We're already hearing. I mean, I just saw today that we got 61,000 people dead in the United States from coronavirus, and anticipating now that we'll hit 100,000 by the end of August, and then a second wave is coming. So you're saying, by looking at your spike, if you're going to go to Jerusalem and be there by next March, you may need to leave and head to Jerusalem in October. Are you planning on doing that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we see CO4 happen, yes, I'm planning. Matter of fact, I'm starting to get my camping supplies now and everything, because Sukkot means temporary shelters. Remember, you won't be able to live. The buildings over there they're in stone blocks. The whole world is going to be shaking. Okay, so most structures are not going to be safe. The safest place to be is in a tent structure, because if a tent collapses on you, it doesn't hurt you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what. There's practical reasons why the Father's feast are there. It gets you the right place at the right time, but it also teaches you how to prepare. Sukkot teaches you how to live in a temporary shelter. In a modern time, that would be most likely more like a tent structure. So having your cot, sleeping bag, proper utensils to work out of a tent is different than working out of your home. You have to practice that. So there was, these are not vain religious acts. They are actual practical things that the Father gave us to get us prepared for this time period. Now it's going to be no longer a practice run. It's going to be the real thing. And that's why it's there for.
So it's very possible, if timing is correct, that March of 2021, according to Gill Broussard, folks, it's very possible. He's not saying it's 100%. He doesn't have a crystal ball, but just watching the events that are unfolding and keeping a close eye on everything, it's possible that PlanetX will scrape past our solar system in Passover of 2021. And I can tell you, the little green file that Heidi's presentation, we've already talked about a debris field, what they called a Jupiter collision, Gill, that is going to happen. It's on the little green file by the 4 NASA scientists who left this file out for some of us to have, and is that they're anticipating Passover, March 28th, 2021, that there will be a debris field, deep impacts into Jupiter. Now, they don't say what happens to the Earth. They're just talking about a debris field from PlanetX hitting Jupiter. Could that be the tail of this PlanetX that is hitting Jupiter at that point?
I'd have to check that on the software models. If you want to provide me with some of that information, I'll be more than glad to review the models and see if it has any validity with what the past history has shown us.
All right. So in other words, there's a possibility here to what they're doing is maybe they're not revealing to us the effects of what's going to happen to the Earth in Passover of next year, but they're telling us about what's going to hit Jupiter, where Gill is telling us, well, let me just tell you what might be happening to the Earth at the same time. And again, folks, we don't know. I mean, this is why we're having this conference. One of the reasons God told me, have this conference, call it Megaquake 2020, to help prepare people for the coming prophecies that the Earth is going to face. What other things would you want to look at from the Bible standpoint, Gill, would you like to discuss about PlanetX historically and biblically in the past?
Well, if we could just back up, we were talking about the Mayans. If we go look at the recent discovery I made on the Mayans.
Okay, please tell us about your discovery on the Mayans.
For 5 or 6 years, I've been having that the cover to the Mayan king tomb. It's a carving. This is Pakal. He was the Pakal first, or one. And this was on the surface of his tomb, this carving. Well, there's been many speculations on what they're trying, but none of them really made a whole bunch of sense. And once you take a closer look at this, it's actually depicting our planet coming in. You can see this is the exact year that the king died as well. He died in towards I think August 20th possibly, is when his death happened. Well, that's 5 months later from the actual event. So you can see these red dots in the picture that I placed. I colored this to where it's easier to distinguish it.
Yes.
That's a meteor. That's a meteor shower he's depicting there.
Okay.
It shows the sun and it shows the moon. It shows the Milky Way at the top. Then the little green objects are planets. And the purple objects are constellations. And we have one that's below the horizon, which is Saturn. And we can go back and look at the year that he died, which is in 683, and go back to March. On March 28th, we have an exact match to this object, this plaque that was on this one. All of the planets were in the correct positions according to the constellations. The sun and moon are there. Saturn is below the horizon, and you have the approach of PlanetX coming in the early morning.
This is incredible. I'm sitting there, Brock, keep that screen up there. I mean, we're looking at this, and it's just incredible that in that year, that is where everything would have been, as far as the stars and the planets and the comet
He was 80 years old right there. He was his age was 80. He died in August 20th, I believe it is. It says.
And what year was that again? 600 and what?
683. You can tell that, okay, he's sitting on his throne, he's looking up at the sky.
Yeah.
In horror kind of. He doesn't like what he's seeing. It's either a meteor shower started or the planet appeared, whichever way you want it, whatever happened to him at the time. But either he succumbed to his injuries or he got caught in a second meteor. I don't know which one it is. But it's associated with his death because that's why it's on his tomb.
You know, you think of the Bible, Jesus said in Luke 21 when he said, "For there shall be signs in the sun, the moon, the stars, distress of nations with perplexity. The sea, the waves will be roaring, and men's hearts will fail them for fear, for looking after those things coming upon the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall they see the Son of Man," of course, "coming with the clouds with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass," he said, "look up, lift up your head, your redemption draws nigh. But men will die of fear for what they see coming upon the earth." And this is like a precursor. He may have died of a heart attack. He might have died just from the realization of what was coming upon the earth.
Yes, it appears so. I mean, this is associated with his death right here. That's why it's on his tomb. It's telling a story about his death. They show meteor showers. They show the planet rising and everything.
Now, has anyone else? Is this the first time this has been publicly being revealed?
Yes. Not the stone, but this misinterpretation of the stone as far as astronomy. Yes.
I mean, this is huge. And what did you do? Go back into the stellarium to look at where the planet locations were at the time of this death?
Not stellarium. I use Starry Night Pro.
Right, but still, you used that software, and you took us back to the August 20th of 683 AD.
Yeah. If you use stellarium for some of these BC dates, it does not match.
I see.
If you use Solarium. So, because I don't know which algorithm in there is the correct one to use, so I can't help people with Solarium.
No.
But
Wow, this is a great revelation, folks, and this is what I was telling you, folks, why I wanted you to come to this conference. That Gill had told me that he had a brand new revelation from the Mayans, and that he wanted to bring forward, and also you have something also from the Egyptians. Is that right?
yes, I already have one Miss Egyptian ceiling. It's in the Louvre. It's let me see if I can find it. That was Job event. It's a circular disc. Well, we got from that same temple complex. There's another drawing on the walls, on the ceilings, and it's pertaining. The date lines up with the Tower of Babel. At least that's what I'm assuming it is. Because the Egyptians wasn't aware of the Tower of Babel. I'm just trying to line up the dates. We have this ceiling that you can look at. If your gentleman can pull up page 17 on the document that I sent him.
Yes. Yeah, we got it. We got it on the screen for you.
It gives you a close-up view of what was on the ceiling.
So what are we looking at there? We're looking at
the top view. Let me check something real quick. My computer's acting a little slow right now. All right. It's giving me a little trouble here. Okay. The top one is the nighttime skies, and the bottom one is the daytime skies.
yes.
Okay. And from the horizon to horizon is what they're showing in each frame. Like what constellations can be seen. Keep in mind, they knew what planets they have the timing of how long it takes the planets to circle the sun. So whatever they see in the daytime skies, they know where the position of the other planets are in what constellation because of their calculations. So they're giving you all the information of all of the planets, where they were, that was visual, which you can only see up to Saturn. And what's interesting, this is the first time we were able to find Ceres recorded as a planet.
Wow!
It's all the way to the right. This is before Ceres was destroyed. Remember, Ceres was destroyed just before the Exodus.
Yes.
For the 3 days of darkness. So this is the first time we can see that Ceres is actually recorded, because it can't be any other planet. It's all the way to the right on the bottom.
Yes.
And then PlanetX is right there at the top, in the middle, right next to Libra. And this is what the software shows us. We have an exact match. It gives us the exact date. This is within 2 to 3 hours of the event.
So this was on an Egyptian tomb?
The ceiling of the temple.
The ceiling? Okay.
The temple of Hathor has recording at least probably around 8 to 10 times that it's come around. According to what I've been able to interpret, right now I'm missing 2 that should be between the Tower of Babel and Lot's Trouble. According to what I saw on the wall, it's kind of early yet, but we should have 8 events, and I only have 6 at the moment, so I'm looking for 2 more. I'm trying to find the other depictions in that temple to try to figure it out.
So in the temple, the Egyptian temple of Thor, on the ceiling, this drawing matches the constellational alignments for the event of during the time of PlanetX. And I mean, that is anybody ever even put that together before now?
Not that I'm aware of. They've misinterpreted these things a lot by saying, this is God's, or whether or not they know this and they just hiding it, I don't know, but it's quite clear on astronomy-wise that this is exactly what they're talking about. It's self-evident. Because remember, each planet is moving at different rates. I'll show, like Venus moves at 224 days, Saturn 29 years, Mercury 88 days, Mars 687 days, and Jupiter 11.86 years, and the Moon has a 27-day and 8-hour rotation, and every month the moves over another constellation, and every 2,000, a little bit over 2,000 years, the seasons, like March will move over a constellation. So this is God's time clock. It's very exact, and this gives us within a 3 to 4 hours accuracy of the time of the event, because remember, a constellation, within 2 hours, it's gone. It's moved over, and a new one has come up because Earth is rotating.
Right.
So it's within 3 to 4 hours, depending on whether or not there was a half of a constellation or a whole one. So that's how accurate this is giving us. And this lines up with the Bible events. We have 7 artifacts that gives us. Most of them will give you within 2 to 3 hours of the event. Not all of them, but most of them will. And how is it that it lines up when you read the stories of the Bible where the earth is shaking? A 3-hour eclipse. 3-hour eclipse is not natural.
No, that's what happened when Yeshua was on the cross. We have a 3-hour eclipse. And I keep thinking to myself, when was there a 3-hour eclipse other than that? I mean, it's very difficult.
You can read in the Bible multiple places of a double eclipse. It says the sun went dark and the moon turned blood red.
Right.
That's impossible in the natural. You can only have one at a time. And it states multiple times in the Bible, double eclipses. That's plural.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to have eclipses plural. Well, now we do. It's in the Bible. And the reason why it's there is because you have a third body causing the darkness of both of those, the moon and the sun. And it will give you 3 hours of darkness. Where our moon, when it's in front of the sun, can only give you 7.3 minutes.
So that's how, because folks, when Jesus was on the cross, when Yeshua was on the cross, the darkness came for 3 hours. It tells you that right in the scripture. And even the centurion soldier standing there said, surely this must be the Son of God. There was an earthquake that hit so hard at the same time that it literally tore the veil in the temple in half and knocked, and according to Jewish legend and documentation, I even talked to some of the rabbis about it, some of the rabbinical writings, is the door of the temple never closed again because it knocked it off its foundation and they could never get the door to completely close. This happened at the death of Yeshua on the cross, and also the earthquake that hit Jerusalem on the resurrection. The Bible says it was so massive, and many bodies of the saints were seen walking through the streets. So you're saying that we had another major space event that we can document in the Bible, that to explain how it could happen would only be one way to explain it. A third body has to get in between the sun and the moon to create a double eclipse.
Correct. And the Bible also states the whole earth was darkened. A normal eclipse does not darken the entire earth. Okay? It only darkens a small path as it's moving because earth is rotating out of the shadow, and it can only stay on, it's on top of you, 7.3 minutes. So how do you get the whole earth darkening? It takes a very large object to darken the entire earth for 3 hours.
Gill,
that's what it was.
Gill, this is fascinating. Folks, we've been putting it up on the screen all the whole time he's been here. go to planet7x.net. That's planet7x.net. Check out Gill Broussard's website there. Also, go to his Facebook page, and we've been putting that on the screen all day. Become friends with him. Check out his information. Also, Gill has a YouTube channel called Planet 7X. And go check out his YouTube videos. They're phenomenal. They're incredible. And Gill, don't you still have some of your DVDs available or books as well?
Yes. Also, there's a DVD that explains each one of the events. It's called the DVD says charts. I believe it says something about charts. Let me check real quick what the title of it is. Yes, PlanetX, the charts is called. And where I go through each event. I won't have these two new ones, the Tower of Babel and the Mayan, because that's recent. Because my work is still
ongoing.
Ongoing, correct.
Tower of Babel, which you have from the Mayans.
No, the Tower of Babel was this Egyptian artifact.
Excuse me. That was on the Egyptian ceiling, painted on the ceiling of the Egyptian temple of Thor. And
not Thor. It's called Dintera is the town that it's in, and the temple is called the Temple of Hathor.
Hathor. That's it. Hathor.
Right.
And then the Mayan was on the lid of the tomb of the king of the Mayans, and that explains, of course, the event of 7X as well, and that's dating back, of course, to August 20th, 683. Okay. So those two discoveries by Gill and his interpretation of those, really, that's the discovery, is his interpretation of those. These are brand new. No one had ever seen that before till this conference. And we really want to thank Gill for breaking that out in this conference. But Gill, so they can get your DVD, where do they find it at? At your website?
Planet7x.net. Probably don't type in www, because some people are having trouble when they put the www in front of it for some reason. I guess they're trying to block it, but just put in planet7x.net and it brings it up. And they can go to the bottom of that page if they want the free PDF. Now, it'll give me another 2 weeks before I can update the PDF, but you can download it as it is right now. And in 2 weeks, I'll make an update to it, adding these new findings that I found.
This is Gill, this is an incredible presentation today. I mean, this outdid anything I thought you was going to bring forward. You're always amazing, but believe me, this was phenomenal. And of course, you couldn't see all the presentation going up on the screen that Brock was doing, but it went beautiful. And the people, I guarantee you, who have watched this today are saying, thank you for bringing Gill Broussard into this conference. So Gill, I want to thank you. I really want to thank you for being a part of this. It's been great.
You're welcome.
Great information. And
it's always a pleasure to be on your show, Paul. Like I said, to inform the people is going to help them understand how this relates to our text. Remember, the book of Revelation was written over 2,000 years ago. And it's very prevalent today because we're in it. And they have scientific information. There's no way they could have guessed this. It's impossible to know the exact day and exact hour of the first taking away, not the second. First taking away says, my people will know. The second taking away, it's a surprise, okay? Like a thief in the night, whatever. But on the first one, he will come mid of night, and the moon's going to be at the foot of Virgo. And the whole world is going to be shaking and everything else. Earth is going to tilt. Earth is going to stop on its axis. The winds. That's why if you're near Jerusalem, that's the pivot point of the tilt. It's the least effects of tidal waves, wind, and everything. It has the least effect being at the pivot of the tilt.
It's the navel of the world. Unbelievable.
Right.
Gill Broussard, folks. Gill Broussard. Thank you, Gill, so much. And folks, thank you all for being a part of this Megaquake webinar. I know you're enjoying it. And this is Gill Broussard's presentation. Now, enjoy the rest of the presentations. This is Megaquake 2020. God bless all of you. Thank you, Gill, so much.
You're welcome.